Google Voice is a service that lets you take your phone number and use it on any phone, and also get text messages via the web as well as send them. Of course, people were excited when Google made the application available for BlackBerry and Android, and most recently, iPhone owners were actually able to take advantage of the service as well. That is, until Apple put the kibosh on Google Voice's programs. Now the programs that have been in the Apple Store that support Google Voice have been removed, and there's lots of drama as to exactly what's going on here. Let's bring in a couple technology journalists to talk about Google Voice, its pros and cons, as well as the drama going on over the App Store. We bring in Jeremy Kaplan from PC Mag. Jeremy, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Also, we bring in James Papadopoulos from TechSpank. James, thanks for being with us as well.
Good to be back.
So this is, we're used to hearing problems with the App Store approval process. Of course, Apple has final say over things that are let into its store. And Google Voice has been a service that's been around for a few years. They rebranded it Google Voice. It was previously called Grand Central. Now, Jeremy, before the show we were talking, you've used Google Voice. What's your impressions of Google Voice first off, before we even get into any of the App Store stuff?
Well, it's a pretty darn decent program. I mean, a permanent follow-around phone number, it's pretty handy. The voicemail system's actually pretty darn good. Not surprising. Pretty much anything Google does, they have a way of, sort of like Apple, they have a way of taking something that's complicated and smoothing out the challenges behind it, making it easy to use. That said, VoIP calls in general aren't really of the best quality, and tie in the iPhone into that, you're adding a couple of problems. So it's not necessarily the best quality, but it still is a pretty decent service, and considering it's free, you've got a winner on your hands there.
Yeah, you can't beat the price for sure. Now, James, we've heard lots of drama over the past, I don't know, ever since the App Store has really been around, over developers who submit applications, and then once they get into the App Store, they either are removed or Apple rejects them outright, and they've spent development time. Now, Google's kind of been able to skirt this for a while because they're BFFs with Apple. Of course, Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google, sits on Apple's board. What's your take on this whole drama that's unfolding? Do you think that, the problem that Apple states is that it duplicates too much of the iPhone's functionality in that it can send and receive calls and text messages? I mean, obviously for consumers this sucks, but what's your take on this?
Well, I don't think we really know. Like, it wouldn't be Apple if there wasn't some sort of secrecy, and it wouldn't be Apple if there wasn't some sort of fanboyism going on. So, there's going to be like crazy stuff going on from both sides. But it could be a number of reasons. The network might not be able to handle something like that. Who knows? It does duplicate services. I mean, it might make things more confusing, and that's a PR no-no if you're going to make a phone more confusing. And if it's something that really is kind of like the iPhone minus the service, but with the service, it's like this weird thing like that solves a problem that nobody really has, really. I mean, if you just have one cell phone and a work number, you don't really have it. I mean, it might be more useful for corporate users, but for home users, I don't know. I don't really think it's that useful, so maybe that's what Apple's motivations are. They just don't want to make things more confusing when they don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, for sure it's definitely for people who have multiple phones and want to be able to access this anywhere. For regular cell phone users, getting things like unlimited text messages for free is something that is part of Apple's the current iPhone plan. So it's not really, well, I have to double check actually if that's the case. But Jeremy,
well, it's a tier. You could do that at some tier, but not all of them.
Yeah, exactly. So there's definitely options out there. Jeremy, what's your take on all this drama?
Well, the question is, what's Apple's motivation really? I mean, if they're arguing that it's duplicating some core services of the phone itself, and therefore we can't have another application that does that, well, that's kind of the territory that Microsoft got into with the whole browser wars, and just because you've got something doesn't mean consumers shouldn't have choice. If, on the other hand, it's more of a big brother looking over your shoulder, we don't want you to have this certain app for some unknown reason, well, that's another sort of problem in my eyes. I mean, do we want Apple functioning as a big brother? I mean, it's fine with them protecting me from the booby apps and the fart apps out there. Although those are kind of fun,
yeah.
But I mean, if they're really cutting things down because of things like that, it just makes it more challenging for developers, and it cuts down on the choice for consumers as well. In any event, no matter how much they moderate things, there's kind of a problem from a consumer's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the problem here is that developers want to be in the App Store because they have access to millions of iPhones and millions of pockets of people who are buying these applications, but at the same time, Apple is the gatekeeper, and if they invest all this time to develop apps that are just rejected at the last second, it kind of is not, there's that, economic they kind of have to build that into their business planning.
Yeah, why open the door if you're going to keep the chain on the lock the whole time?
And the question is, do you think that Apple is a monopoly at this point?
On the iPhone itself or of the services?
I mean, for the iPhone,
I mean, it's their baby. I mean, they could do what they want with it. But I mean, recently there's been like, I'm not sure if it's like inklings of change or something, but people in Congress who are usually clueless to how technology works, they've been kind of questioning, well, why is a cell phone locked to a carrier? Why does that happen?
And I mean, that's part of the problem, is that there's this whole, platform built around the way that cell phone innovation happens is by carriers subsidizing the costs and whatever. But even more than that, like to build an application right now, if you want a successful mobile application, you really need to put it on the iPhone, which kind of puts Apple in a little bit of a monopolistic aspect for mobile developers. I don't know, Jeremy, do you think that's the case?
That's a really, really interesting question. What defines a monopoly? At what point is this a monopoly? I mean, it's just one cell phone among many cell phones. I don't have an iPhone, for example. I know a lot of people that don't have iPhones.
No, definitely.
But on the other hand, as a software platform, which is really what Microsoft Windows is, Windows isn't a PC, it's a software platform, and they've had a lot of controversies about monopolistic practices. So to what extent is the iPhone a software platform, and can they be attacked on this level? I mean, that's what we're really talking about here.
I guess we'll really have to see, right? And I don't think there's a clear answer for this. I'm just a little bit worried where the path we're heading down. Hopefully developers will be able to keep developing apps without having to worry about Big Brother over their shoulder. Regardless, Jeremy Kaplan, thanks for being with us from PC
thanks
Magazine.
For having me.
Also, James Papadopoulos, who does TechSpank. You guys are coming back in August, right?
Yes, actually, August 2nd, I think, we're going to start showing new episodes. But right now, actually, today we just put an iPhone repair. In case you break your screen on your iPhone, I'll show you how to fix it.
Bam.
Exciting.
That's techspank.com. You can check that out. I'm Randall Bennett, and you subscribe to us on iTunes, on YouTube. We're pretty much everywhere, so make sure you check us out. See ya.